If I think about Berlin, if I think about how musically diverse it was actually in the early 2000s, it was way more diverse than it is now, and people talk about diversity all the time.
Clubroom Backstage.
Hallo meine lieben Freunde und Freundinnen, willkommen zum Clubroom Backstage. Mein Name ist Anja Schneider und ich lade hier alle 2 Wochen Persönlichkeiten ein aus dem clubkulturellen Umfeld, die ich in den 20 Jahren tatsächlich mal im Backstage irgendwo getroffen habe und die ich finde, die es wert sind, hier vorgestellt zu werden. Ich freue mich natürlich über alle, die alle 2 Wochen einschalten und ich hoffe auch, dass wir auch heute mal ein paar neue Leute dazu begrüßen können. Und wie gesagt, erzählt es euren Freunden, liked es, gebt 5 Sterne, läutet die Glocke und seid alle 2 Wochen hier mit mir im Clubroom Backstage. Und heute mache ich mal was ganz Ungewöhnliches. Ich switche sofort ins Englische, denn mein heutiger Gast ist niemand geringerer als Matt Edwards, auch bekannt als Radio Slave. Und da habe ich die Chance ergriffen, weil er dieses Wochenende in der Panorama Bar spielt, dass ich ihn einlade. So I took the chance because he's playing at Panorama Bar and he had the time and found the time to come here. And it's wonderful. Hi, Matt.
Hello there. Hi. Good afternoon or good evening.
Afternoon. And of course, there's a reason why I invited you, because I'm such a fan since more than 20 years.
Thank you.
I remember when I first heard you and first met you, I was always impressed by your production style, by your curation of music, your taste of music. I never experienced something else like this. So it was always like a huge idol for me. And the most funny thing is it stayed 20 years. Normally when you like someone, sometimes you're changing and you go to different statuses. And I'm still a big fan. I'm still buying every record of Rekids. And the good thing is you're celebrating 20 years of Rekids now.
20 years. We started in 2006,
How it feels to reach this milestone and to be still like relevant. I mean, we both started a label, and of course we saw a lot of labels coming, having a huge success, and now more or less disappeared or not relevant anymore, and you're still there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously it's a huge commitment. I guess I'm still a fanboy of music, and that's what keeps me going, and it's way more than just a business. And I'm still really super obsessed with electronic music in all of its forms. And I'm also really, I guess, driven by a lot of the new artists that we work with. I'm maybe not new, but some of the younger artists like Tal Fuzzman, and it's great to see even like a guy like Tiger Stripes, who's been around for ages, come up with a new spin on a format, house music, that's been around since the early 80s or mid 80s. So when you come across these individuals that somehow give it this little new twist, I think that's what makes it super exciting. And
maybe you're giving the twist, because I can imagine that someone want to release on your label, they're really, really concentrated and focused and giving the best track, because normally as a label you always get a lot of music, a lot of demos, and I think to do something for Rekids or send something to Matt or to Radio Slave, that means a lot, and people get focused and doing the best out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, I think my benchmarks obviously are if I can play the track at a club like Panorama Bar, and I mean, I'm incredibly fortunate to know a lot of people, even like yourself, and I mean, it's we're being sent music from new kids to legends to people that maybe deserve the spotlight that have been forgotten about, and that's another area that I'm always kind of focusing on as well, is trying to find maybe producers that, or the underdogs, the people that deserve the spotlight. And so it's a constant sort of challenge running the label.
I mean, there were a lot of underdogs you discovered, and they're not underdogs anymore. Remember, like Nina Kravitz, for example?
Yeah.
I think also Peggy Gou did the first record and stuff like this, and they're not underdogs anymore. How does it feel?
Well, I mean, say with Nina, I mean, I met Nina when she was very, very young at the Red Bull Music Academy. And actually, Gerd Jansen and I were doing an interview, I think, for Red Bull Music Academy, and she was in the next room DJing, and we were like, "Who's this girl?" And she was mixing like Moody Man records, and I think back then she was still in a band. I think she was in some electro pop band, and then she booked me to play at Propaganda in Moscow. Must have been about 2007, and she gave me 2 CDRs, and she wrote on the CDRs, these messages, and it all started from there. But this was a time, and you'll know this being a female DJ, that there weren't so many female DJs. And I think with Nina, I think people didn't accept her because she was, she was pretty. She'd also dress up. She wasn't,
She was doing a change, I think, I think we all have to thank or whatever her, but I think she changed the whole scene.
But I think for especially when she was at Red Bull Music Academy, I think she would turn up wearing a skirt and high heels, and she was all done up. I think it was just her way. And so she was very different, and it wasn't easy getting her gigs. And I can remember having to, put some of my fees into getting her shows, from the start. But with her, that was a great success. Yeah, I'm really pleased for her in a way that and especially that I or Rekids was part of the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine, because your journey started quite early. I read that it was 92. You were playing already records at Ministry of Sound.
So I started DJing in clubs in 92. This was the Milk Bar in London, which was a small club in Sutton Row. It's no longer there. I think that it was opposite.
Probably not.
Yeah, I think this whole area has now been demolished or rebuilt. And it was right next to the Astoria as well, which is no longer there. And it was a very famous small club. The residents were Nicky Holloway, Danny Rampling, Pete Tong. And so I got to play at Pete Tong the Saturdays that they did. And that was the start. And then I was also lucky to be a resident for Jim Masters at Open All Hours, which was at Ministry of Sound. So I would play there like twice a month, From I think it was, we were trying to work this out because there's actually a book being written about Ministry of Sound at the moment, and the Fridays, the Open All Hours, seems to have been forgotten about, and I think it ran from 94 to 97, something like that.
Crazy, no? How long?
Yeah.
This time is flying, absolutely. But then you made it into the production world because you were known by anybody, I think, because of your remix, what you did for Kylie Minogue, the mixture between Blue Monday and...
the first version of Can't Get You Out of My Head that I did was actually a blend of like 3 records, including a Roxy Music track. And it was like a re-edit. And through a friend, it was played by Pete Tong. And then because of how big the record was at the time, I mean, it was such a big record. And because of that,
you earned money probably from this back in the days.
Yeah, they pressed 10 acetates.
Wow.
And then on the day that it was played on the radio, I had to come up with a name. And I was already doing all these edits. And so this is how the name Radio Slave, this is the origin, because it was kind of like being a slave to pop music. And from then I was really lucky. I was really fortunate because of my years of clubbing in the 90s and living in London. I got to meet so many people and meet a lot of my heroes. And at the time I was living in Brighton, I was doing a small club night on a Sunday, booking guys like Maurice Fulton and Phil Asher, who was a good friend of mine at the time. So I was quite well connected. And this was obviously the internet was there, but, pre-social media.
it was not really to tell. Yeah.
And it was, and then I started doing a lot of remixes for pop acts from everyone from Elton John to Paul McCartney and then the more underground stuff.
Yeah, but especially in a time where pop edits were not a big thing, it was it was super the minimal hype, I think, 2000 or something.
Yeah, there was kind of, I think there was after I always remember this, there was because I was working for a company called Vapor, and they were doing nights at home in London. So we did everyone from Rome Anthony to Carl Craig, and this was at home in Leicester Square. It was like the super club in London. And when the millennium came, everything kind of changed and everything became super underground. And then you had Electro Clash, this whole movement. Everything really changed. There was this indie scene, obviously, with Strokes. You had LCD Sound System. It really, really changed. There was this punk funk.
This electro-punk, Tiger, and DJ Hell,
and I always, if I think about Berlin and if I think about how musically diverse it was actually in the early 2000s. It was way more diverse than it is now, and people talk about diversity all the time.
You're right.
But musically, you could come to Berlin, you could go to Broken Hearts Club, or you could go to, there was these disco, not disco nights.
There was Tape Club, I think, was it? In Heidestraße or something. There was so many things and so many music, and everything was possible. And you even could see the same people on different parties. It was you were not like directly, this is only my club and this is only my music. Everyone was more open.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then there was, I think there was guys like Ivan Schmag and there was a lot of compilations like Bugged Out, and musically it was very diverse. I did a compilation for Eskimo music very early on, and and then of course the minimal thing happened, and that was such a big thing in the UK. That was one of the reasons why I started Rekids, I think.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to ask why is that. But was it quite? But honestly, Rekids, when I remember it right, when it started, it was not like really minimal. It was also not really housey like it is now. I mean, you've been to several states of music genres, so I think this is quite normal because we're all developing and changing our taste sometimes.
For sure.
It was never going with the trend.
No, for sure. I mean, I think that the label was born, again, it's always out of frustration. Maybe I was looking for a home or some way of expressing myself or bringing in the people that I'd met. I was really lucky. I think I met you very early on. And from doing the remixes, I got to tour internationally. And of course, I've got to meet all my peers, and then you'd stay in touch. And then you'd sort of, then the ideas of working together, collaborating or doing remixes came along. And so, all those possibilities, I think, were made possible by traveling, and then coming home, I was like, okay, right, and I should do a label. At the time, this is the mid-2000s, everyone was so obsessed with what was happening in Germany.
Yeah, so you moved to Berlin.
With Mobley or Get Physical. It was all about Berlin. And there were only a few labels in the UK. Damien had started Crosstown Rebels. There were lots of labels, but not so many sort of maybe hyped labels as that was happening in Berlin. So I wanted to do something similar, but maybe, that's how it all started.
Yeah. I remember Damien, it was not easy for him. He was not really well accepted in Berlin. I know that he had like a label night, or that the only club they booked him was Polar TV back in the days. But he was not a big thing, And I know he had to struggle, but he always continued, I will have to come to Berlin. I have to play here. So, and when you moved to Berlin, you remember?
I moved in August 2007. I was living in Brighton at the time and moved to Mitte, and I moved in with Jessie Rose, who was living in Berlin at the time, and we lived together for like a year, and then I moved to Kreuzberg, and then I lived in Kreuzberg in the same apartment for like 15 years.
And then you decided to change it, of course, like almost everyone from back in the days.
But it was, when I moved, I think that, I don't know, this is the crazy thing, is that I was probably working like 10 hours a day in my studio when I stopped working and like doing a day job and, did this full time. For me, it was just all about music and just working. And then, of course, and I was doing a lot of remixes, but then, of course, I moved to Berlin and I didn't do anything for ages because I just was out partying with all these people.
I can't remember this because I always had the feeling that there was always a Radioslav remix somewhere coming out.
I mean, maybe
you were so hyped and still are.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I did have I had a small setup. I found it really difficult. Had a great studio in Brighton, then moved to Mitte, and of course, within day one of setting my studio up, I got complaints from the neighbours, and but things changed. I mean, I was exposed to this Berlin nightlife. Of course, I'd been coming to Berlin and been playing prior to that. I think the first time I played in Berlin was maybe 2003 or 2004 for Phonique at Weekend, I think.
Yeah, Weekend was the club back then. Yeah. Crazy.
And then I think the first time I played at Berghain was a Friday in 2006.
And this changed your life, or?
Well, actually, the first time I played there, I wasn't convinced, but then I came back. Marcel Dettmann, he was one of the first people that I became friends with in the city, and we did a party somewhere else, but then we went to Berghain after, and then I heard Boris play in Panorama Bar, and we were hanging out, and I was like, right, this is it. This is the place. Okay. I get it.
And then you played for the second time, and then it changed your life.
Yeah.
And you're still playing there.
Yeah,
This is also not usual because I remember
mean, we've been doing Rekids label parties there since 2007.
Mm-hmm. But then they changed also the concept. I think they didn't do so many label nights anymore, but now they're starting again. And I remember you had just recently your Rekids party there.
Yeah, we did a party there in August, which was great. We had Tal Fussman, DJ Minx. I mean, I'm such a big fan of Jennifer. She's amazing, and
she's super cool.
She was incredible, and Confidential Recipe and Matthias Caden played Carden. And
they were all really happy. I couldn't go because I was playing the same time Garbage Festival, which was also quite an experience. But I was a little bit sad not to be in Berlin.
Yeah, it was a good. I mean, obviously it was the middle of the summer, so it was a difficult night. But it was good. It was good fun. It's a great place to do parties, and still a great place in Berlin. So.
But what is your secret that you're still relevant? That you still can do label parties, not only in Panorama Bar or Berghain, or that you still so relevant and still are. Are you still working with the same team?
I thought the team is me.
Maybe this is the secret.
Yeah, I mean, it's with Rekids. I just work with one of my best friends, with Leon, and Leon also runs a bunch of other very well-known labels in the UK, and that's the way it's been. And I mean, it's. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, really.
But there was one big change what I recognized, that because for me, Rekids was also a really kind of a techno label. I mean, you had artists like Marco Faraone, you had also your own
I think
Patrick Mason, for example. This was for me how I define techno. Normally, it's not techno anymore, probably.
I think if I look back at the sets that I did in maybe from I think I really changed about 2013 to 2016. I was playing maybe a lot harder, but still quite funky. But maybe, and I think I was just trying to find my way as well, musically, because things were changing, and as they always do. So, and you have to kind of I wasn't trying to fit in, but I was trying to,
of course,
navigate this incredibly complex industry, And so, I found myself playing much tougher stuff and also enjoying it. And I mean, I've always been into very tracky sort of rhythm tracks. And then I think even before the pandemic, I just found that techno was getting faster. And a lot of these influences from the 90s. I mean, I was never into trance or hard dance in the 90s. And I lived through it, and I remember it very well. And it was just never my thing. I used to go with friends to Lost in London, which is a very famous techno club. Jeff Mills used to play a lot, and it was never really my thing. I was much more, I would far more, a lot more likely to gravitate towards going to Ministry and hearing Carl Craig or, Green Velvet or this sound. I'm much more of a Panorama Bar person than a Berghain person.
Yeah, of course. I know what you mean. But you said things change like they always do. And I just read an interview, I think you did last year with Mixmag, where you were saying, oh man, this new techno thing is not my thing. It's kind of like EDM and stadium music. It's not where I'm coming from, where I can identify myself.
No.
So what do you think? Do you think it's changed again? Do you think, can you see that?
To me, it's not my sound. So I can't associate with it. It's never, I think that, I don't know, it's really tricky, but I think techno is in probably a really bad place because I think house music with, there's been people like Simon Dunmore.
Yeah.
And I think I was never really a massive fan of Defected in the past.
Yeah, but they're still there.
But they're still there. But I think what he did, with like Faith Magazine and what he's done for the culture and what he's done to support a lot of artists from the States, a lot of black artists. Yeah. I mean, he's done so much for house music. But I think techno's in a very strange place where I think that people are very disconnected from the past. And maybe people don't really care about the heritage and the history of techno. I mean, when I was younger, and I can remember even 10 years ago, there would be techno events in museums because techno was always put on a pedestal as being quite highbrow and could be seen as an art form. So you'd get like Jeff Mills performing in a gallery space.
Bilbao, there was a lot of things.
And it was always supported by the arts. But if I look at it now and I look at, say, Indira or these people, you know, I think that this is so far removed from any of that, and it can't be considered like an art form. It's like more like a commodity, and you know, it is what it is. But I just feel like Rekids or what I do or the people that I'm around, we're not part of that. It's something that's completely different, you know.
But is the people, I mean, you're around, or when you do your Rekids nights, especially when you're not doing it at Panorama Bar, are these more like people in, I say it friendly, in our age, or
I mean, because we're working with Tal Fussman. He's in his 20s still.
He is amazing. I love him so much. I mean,
and I think he's going to turn 30 in a few weeks, but he's a very opinionated young man, you know, and he really knows his stuff, and he's really into the music, and he's really into good music, and he's really passionate about it, you know, and so it's great that there's people like that, you know. Yeah,
or the confidential recipes.
Yeah, also. Like Kuri's great.
Is Kuri also in his 30s? No, probably not.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. He's really young.
I think he's in his early 30s, but it's the same. And there's a lot of artists out there that really care about the music, and they somehow kind of, like I've mentioned before, they can somehow create some new twist on what is quite an old form of music, you know, and make it sound fresh and still be respectful of the past. Yeah.
The history of
and
this
also
music.
And they're also, you know, really into digging and but also respect new music and want to produce and release new music, you know.
But what is the secret? What is your secret to find this kind of people? Because you always had this touch, and I mean, if someone is releasing on Rekids, they made their way out mostly.
Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time digging for music, and I've always, in my browser at home, I've always got, like, you know, numerous pages open, like Hardwax or Beatport or you know, loads, and I'm always checking, you know, charts and things like that, you know. So it's and I'm just keeping an eye, and I just do my best. I mean, of course, I'm always missing music. I'm always missing stuff, you know. And but I'll just try and keep my ears and eyes open to everything, you know.
But how you find the time then even to produce music? Because you still, you know, you just released this album. Then there's every month there's a Radio Slave remix from a really big, cool classic mostly, which is also like a big thing to remix such tracks. So how do you find this? How you can organize this? And then you have also different aliases. I mean, you still have this Quiet Village thing, which is completely different music.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I'm probably sitting on a lot of music at the moment that still hasn't been released, and hopefully I'll release an album next year, which is going to be probably a very pure Radio Slave album. It might be the last album that I do. Like,
don't say this.
Well, commercially, I mean, I don't know. But there's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. It's not going to be like structured or have singles, and it's probably going to be very self-indulgent. But I've been speaking with guys like John Dixon, and the idea is to be a collaborative project, but very purist. But with everything else, I mean, at the moment, since moving to Croatia, I had quite a lot of time, but, you know, we were discussing this earlier. I mean, I've spent most of the summer being on the road and being busy, which I enjoy, and it's great being out there and playing. But I don't know, it's also great to be at home and to have the time to make music. And I recognise this when I speak to guys like Tal, you know, with their real studio heads, and, you know, he makes a lot of music, and I do wonder, you know, you see it with
not stop.
Well, you see it with everyone, and like I mentioned before, you know, when I moved to Berlin, I kind of slowed down, and, you know, I think a lot of the producers we know, they made their best music when they were young and free of everything, and had the time to really be self-indulgent or really just have the time to be in the studio.
Are you not free of everything anymore?
Well, actually, for me, the time...
Especially when you have so much music open constantly, then I find it more difficult to produce and be free. And I mean, you have a lot of pressure also because you're not running only Rekids, you have 2 other labels. I mean, it's a huge...
Yeah, the worst thing is actually doing work. Commissioned work is the hardest. And you probably know, it's like when you have to do a remix and... You're being paid, and maybe the song that you're remixing isn't great, and that's when the problems can start, because then you can you get stuck. When I'm at home, and if at the moment I'm working with headphones, and that's the time I have. It's me time, It's the time I get to switch off everything else, and it's difficult with 2 kids, wife.
Wife. All right.
And all, but all the
I know what you mean.
the day-to-day distractions.
Of course, we are not so free anymore like we were in our 20s.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
There's also as well the added thing of social media, of like time management, running the label. I speak to my label manager, Leon, bless him, about maybe 6 times a day on the phone. And then I also speak to Dean, who's from Dispersion.
Yeah.
This is the company that does the PR for Rekids. So there's a lot of different parts of the puzzle that I have to deal with every day.
It has to be done, of course, also. Do you have someone who's doing your social media?
No, just me. Yeah.
Wow. And of course, we are not so open. I mean, we are from this generation. We are a little bit shy to share our life 24/7. And I find it not interesting, and I'm really critic with my own pictures, and I'm not. Is this really interesting? If there's someone wants to read this, and it's quite difficult to make this content.
It's a real battle with the whole content thing. But again, it's a blessing and a curse. Social media, but I mean, I've got to meet so many of my heroes, not just in music, but outside of music as well, and being able to connect with these people, and that's why I think there's always something maybe interesting that I can post,
Do you still have a musical hero you didn't meet so far?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, I would have loved to have met Richie Sakamoto.
Oh.
But unfortunately, he passed away.
Yeah, impossible. Yeah, it was last year, no?
Yeah,
yeah.
He's probably him and maybe Vangelis.
Vangelis?
Yeah.
All right. This is not so mine, but I can understand.
Yeah, but maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's anyone that I'd really... I mean, there's people that I've always wanted to collaborate with. I'd love to do like a collaboration. Maybe I'd love to do a song with maybe Bruce Springsteen vocals or something really crazy,
So coming back to your initial roots, to this pop edits one.
Yeah.
All right, interesting.
But I like the idea of these real curveballs. I think that's sometimes missing now in dance music. It was amazing in the 90s when you would get like Carl Craig remixes of Tori Amos, when the majors were a little bit more experimental with, where I think Future Sound of London remixed Prefab Sprout, stuff like that. And I miss that.
Why do you think they're not so easy anymore, or a little bit afraid of it? Because normally this music is like big, Maybe this big techno heads get the remixes now, or no? I'm not sure.
I think it's a good question, because I think that there's definitely less interest in remixes. So, I mean, I very rarely do. Well, I maybe do 3 or 4 remixes a year. In the mid-2000s, I was maybe doing like 12 remixes or more.
But how many times do you say no to a remix request?
Quite a lot. I mean,
I think so.
Yeah,
Everyone wants to have a Radio Slave remix. I don't know anyone who doesn't.
Yeah, but the thing is, I really like remixing. I think some of the best remixes I've ever done are of songs. And like maybe the Trent Moller Moan and stuff like this. I mean, they're really...
I forgot about this.
When you have really great source material, then of course the end result is going to be great, and having good stems, having good parts. It's really difficult to remix a techno track.
Yeah, I know. I got requested lately, it was now I think 4 months ago, from The Cure.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I said, okay, now I can retire. I don't know why they asked me, but for me it was always a band which was playing an important role in my development in electronic music. And this was quite exciting.
Amazing.
And this was also not good, because I had so much respect, especially for the vocals of Robert Smith. You can't change them. It makes no sense that they're sounding a little bit different. So this was also quite heavy, but I did it, and so now I can retire. And how many demos you got?
That's a good question as well.
I think too much now.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to. I mean, this is the thing; it's never ending, and I do try to listen to everything I'm sent, because there's so many different ways. And of course, as you know, people can reach you, whether it's social media, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere.
I like that you say Facebook. This is our generation.
Well, actually, I'm still active on Facebook, because actually I follow quite a few groups, and actually there's more of a community aspect to Facebook that's missing on Instagram. So if you're a fan of, like, say, Sean Johnson and Alphos, A Love from Outer Space, which is, it's great to see groups like this where people go to the club, and then afterwards they'll all be on these the comments saying, oh, Sean played a track at 5 p.m. What was this? Blah blah. But you can't do that on Instagram. So, but yeah, going back to the demos, I mean, it's really tough, and I totally understand. I saw Jamie Jones do a post about it the other day. It is really difficult, and it's the problem. One of the problems that we're finding is that a lot of the A-list DJs are so slow in picking up records anyway, because they usually have their own. They have a set playlist, and that's the way that they play. I mean, I understand it. If you're like Sven and you play records, then you might have a selection for the season, which he does. I think, which is great, because that means he gets a lot of mileage out of every track.
Absolutely. And
gets to know the records. But yeah, and then of course now a lot of DJ groups, whether it's Kind of Music or a lot of the UK guys, they just play their own music.
Yeah, absolutely. And also releasing only their own music.
Yeah.
For example, for my label, what I have, which is compared to Rekids, of course, really, really small. It makes only sense that I'm releasing. I don't have the chance anymore, like I had 20 years ago, to make an artist really big.
Yeah.
And so probably, I don't know how you see it, especially also, you mentioned quite a lot Tal, but I think it's really, really difficult nowadays to make another artist big, like we had the chance back in the days, like you had, for example, with Nina or other ones. It's really, really hard work today. Yeah, I mean,
we're constantly battling with this in regard to things like Spotify and like it's with the algorithms and the way that it works. It's very difficult to get your foot in the door. And even with Rekids, that's why we have this other label, Rekt. So the idea with this label is a kind of stepping stone. It's the same as Rekids. So, recently we've had some well-known artists on that label. It's just another avenue. But it's crazy to think that, I mean, we have some releases on Rekt which are played by everyone, yet they get 0 plays on Spotify. And these records like a record, say, 20 years ago, if it was a big record, it'd be a big record.
It doesn't matter who was doing it,
Yeah, because there would be this word of mouth thing at the record stores. It would be like a ripple effect. I mean, you could, if you look at, say, the success of like Chemical Brothers, they put out one record, Song to the Siren, as like a promo. And from that, it was just one record. Then Andrew Weatherall played it. And from this, everyone else played it. And then, you could release one record and then get a major label deal and then go on to release albums and have a career. And you can't do that now. Yeah.
But is it for you quite important to check, for example, when you have add a new artist on it, how is his or her social media game?
I will sometimes check that.
Yeah, you have to.
I don't check the social media, but I will sometimes have a look at Spotify, more so if we're commissioning remixes and stuff like that, just to have a look. I'm interested to see, how they're performing, because I think people would be surprised that there's a lot of established electronic music artists that their Spotify numbers are really low.
I know, yeah.
And then there's a lot of these new kids where their Spotify numbers are really high, and it's really odd and doesn't kind of add up or make sense. And that's what makes it difficult. Absolutely, and but also
what I find quite interesting, or what I like especially also in your case, don't get me wrong, but I think you also never had a problem if you had someone on the label who was in the end more successful than you.
Yeah.
And this is probably also the thing of these new kids. They have the label also named by themselves, but they will never ever be a bigger artist than themselves. You know?
I mean,
we had this also when we started labels, like if it was Desolat Minus,
for sure.
you know, they were all this label had sorted, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I think I don't know. I mean, obviously now the artist has become the brand, and so a lot of artists do label deals, direct label deals with distributors,
which is also
so they don't, they bypass going to labels, and so there's that. And if you look at a lot of the current top artists, they pretty much have their own labels, and they just release on those. So I don't know. I mean, I still think the labels are important. I mean, and I really value what labels can bring to the table, and I think that it's really culturally really important. And there's loads of labels that I still follow and I still really respect, and I think it takes a lot to actually keep it, as keep it going.
Yes, absolutely. So 20 years is a long time frame, and for me, even I'm so happy for you that it's still running like this, And you always went, we went to different phases of trends and music, and still Rekids has a special certain sound, and this is quite good. But talking about home, you said it's sometimes nice to be home, and we both get in a certain age where DJing is still fun, but traveling is terrible.
Yeah.
And you live on a little island in Croatia, so I always follow your Insta and see these wonderful pictures of the sunset and everything. But travel from there is not an easy thing, huh?
I don't know. I mean, it's not so bad. It's 1 hour on a boat from Hvar to Split.
Could be the way to the airport also in Berlin,
Exactly. And then I have to take a taxi or a bus to the airport. And it can be a little bit tricky in the winter, but then maybe I'll arrive one day before the gig, or if I come to Berlin, I'll come and stay for a few days. And, the flip side of that is that every time I go home to this island, and I go back to this paradise. And, and this has become our home. And actually, we're now into our 4th year being on Hvar, and now Berlin feels like a completely another chapter of my life.
Absolutely. I live also in Berlin, and I came to Berlin because of enjoying the parties, the clubs, and I'm not doing this anymore. There's not a big advantage, but I still feel Berlin is my home, and I love it, and I could not imagine to live in a different city somewhere in Germany. So for me, this is fine. Of course, I love also to travel. So I've been to New York. I've spent 3 days in Brooklyn, which I really loved. This is sometimes the good thing that we're still on it. But traveling is getting quite hard for me.
But thing is with me is I'm not German. I'll never be German. And my wife is Croatian.
Yeah, this makes sense then to go there.
And we have 2 kids, and I guess we after the pandemic. It was our daughter in 2022. Our daughter she was 6, and so she would have to start school. And we were really lucky. We were fortunate. We bought some land on this island years ago, and it was always going to be our final destination. We always thought we'd end up going there and retiring. And then, the pandemic kind of fast-tracked that whole thing. And actually, for me, I'm really fortunate that I can still travel with this job. And so if I need to enjoy city life or indulge in things, I can be there and see it. But I think there's so much to be said for working remotely, and I'm really lucky that I can live on Hvar, and it's been really good for me actually with the label and musically. I have way more time for the label. I don't have the distractions of city life, which is a big thing. during the pandemic, I had a studio in Riverside Studios.
Yes,
I couldn't be at home because there was the kids and everything. It was so chaotic, and that was great. I mean, it was really great, and it was amazing being in this community and sharing studios, and I learned so much from that. But it, again, that was expensive. That was like a real luxury. I was paying just as much for my small studio, as I was for my apartment.
It was at Riverside.
Yeah. So, but this is the thing. It comes at a price, and so it's really nice to just be away from everything. And I've been sober for almost 5 years. So I'm in a different place in my life.
Was this decision for sobriety coming also during the pandemic?
Yeah. This was at the end of 2020.
And why was it?
I think it was just with the kids. I think it was just, we were obviously at home every day. We were doing these DJs and beers every week.
Yeah, stimmt.
With Chris Liebing and Ali, etc. And with Drumcell and Truncate. We were just at home every day.
And was it difficult, especially as a DJ? I mean, we get offered everything and can drink everything because we have it on our rider. Yeah. And sometimes also nights can be, it's not always amazing. Not everything what you see on the internet is
For sure.
We have sometimes nights, they're hard to work on, hard to follow. And sometimes you also feel lonely. I feel lonely. Yeah. As older I get, I also feel homesick nowadays.
For sure. Yeah.
And this is also terrible. So sometimes then is a glass of wine or a glass of beer more close than everything else, you know. So you never got this problem?
No, actually, I mean, I was sober in the middle of 2013. I got really sick. I was burning the candle way too brightly, touring, and ended up in Charité Hospital. I had my tonsils out. I had to my mandals, and I had to take
I still speak German a little bit.
So I had to take I think in the end it was almost 3 months off work. So I was sober for a year and a half. So I knew the process and how to deal with it. But I don't know, by the end of 2020, I was kind of ready to just be... I'd have to thank as well Trick, Bruno's now wife, Katerina. She was my trainer at the time. And, they're young. They're in their mid-20s, maybe a little bit older now, both sober. And I think, the word wellness didn't exist when we were young.
Of course.
There weren't all these options, things, and for being sober, like alcohol-free beers or, whatever.
It was not available at a club.
No.
Actually,
and there was all this, and of course there was all this peer pressure as well when I was growing up. You had to drink, you had to do this. And I was really lucky to meet an old friend in Berlin, Larry T. And Larry T and I ended up making some music together. And he's now moved to LA, but he's part of AA in Berlin, where he was. And he was a sponsor. He wasn't my sponsor, but he was great to speak to about this whole thing.
I think you need someone you have to speak to.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we actually started working together after I became sober. But it was great speaking to him about actually the kids that he was working with in Berlin, and they were as young as 18, who wanted to become sober, and wanted to. So, and that's great, the people, the kids are doing that, they have the choice,
Yeah, amazing. I remember when I started, for example, DJing, I was always so nervous. I couldn't DJ before I had 2 vodka shots, So this changed, thank God.
Yeah.
But this was also for me, a really big thing always, Yeah. So you just said, all right, you're working on another album or the last. We're going to make always this huge pop stars. They always saying, this is my last tour, this is my last record or whatever. Yeah. We're going to start this now, your last album. But you're working already on it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm halfway through this project. It came from the last album. The album I did, Venti, which means 20. Yeah. Ended up becoming much more of a pop album. It was more of a collage of all these different influences. But actually in the back there was always this other album which I was working on, and So I've now been retweaking these, and the next step is to send them to different people and then see where it goes. And I was hoping to get it all done by the end of October and actually have it ready for the beginning.
Soon.
Yeah, but it's not. It's actually not going to happen. But I'm now kind of confident that with it being 20 years of Rekids, that I can kind of like relax a bit and not,
of course, this was all long planning, absolutely. But how you can work on two projects by the same time? I'm wondering because I'm always have to focus on one project. I can't really make it separate. And
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm quite good at that. I can work on multiple projects, and I mean, especially if I'm working with friends in a studio.
How important is this for you to send it to friends to get a different opinion? Because you also said you want to send the album to some friends to see where it goes.
Well, that was more. These are actual. So the idea is I want to work with musical collaborators. So the guys like Byron the Aquarius, John Dixon, electronic music artists that are also very musical, rather than just being producers. So that's the idea, to get that take on it. And because I want it to go in a kind of not jazz direction, but I want it to have musical parts to it, you know.
You're going to surprise again.
Yeah, maybe.
But how difficult is it for you to leave something, to say, okay, this is ready now.
Well,
I'm happy with it.
So the hardest part for me at the moment is actually the mixing, and I really, really hate this because I don't have a proper studio at the moment, and I really find mixing is the hardest part of making a track. It's kind of like, this is kind of like a real art, and unless you have a really good room and really good monitoring. It's really, it could become really problematic. And the other thing as well is that if you give your music, so you can pay someone to mix your work, which is what a lot of people do. I think the majority of people I know, they're now.
I also find it not even, for me, it's really important to have some other ears hearing it, because you're so long into this project, and it's always good to have some fresh opinion on it. Yeah.
So for me, it's when the music's being mixed, because what you maybe want isn't what the mixing isn't what's maybe right, you know, because this is the thing about electronic music or any kind of music. What's right sonically might not be what, you know, if you listen to someone like Theo Parrish, it's always so weirdly mixed, but that weird mix is his kind of signature. You know, and this is what gives it that magic.
But it's not selling on Spotify, probably. This is now our problem.
No. But I'm, you know, with Rekids and everything, I'm quite confident, like with the music that we're doing and the music that we're releasing, that I think that there's enough people out there that do care, and so and maybe they're not listening. They're not on Spotify. You know. You know, I'm kind of interested in the people that are buying from Bandcamp, Beatport still.
Of course.
You know, for the moment, and you know, the real core, the fans. You know, because we just released today our second Quiet Village single, "Naked Hunger" with Vanessa Dowd.
Oh,
and you know, we've already sold out first 400 12 inches. Yeah.
Wow.
And this is a
but Quiet Village is also like music for the record shops.
Yeah.
You don't buy this at Beatport also.
No,
for example.
But this is the thing. There's different, I guess, tiers of consumers. So, and I think the thing is, a lot of DJs that they don't buy music, or they get music for free. I mean, if you're a techno DJ, you can pretty much get every promo and just. You know, and then of course you've got a lot of these. I think the real fans are the home DJ setup, the guys or girls that have their they have a
bedroom DJs.
Bedroom DJs, yeah, exactly. That have like a normal or a job, and they come home and then they're just enthusiasts, you know. And with Quiet Village, I think it falls into that kind of sector of music lovers and music enthusiasts, you know.
What kind of music listening your kids are listening to your kids?
So my daughter's really into Hatsune Miku. She's
Really?
she's into all this K-pop.
K-pop.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? And how she listened via Spotify? Probably.
No. She's just on YouTube. So she's on YouTube. She's actually appeared on Rekids with this single with Natalie Duchesne. So we are youth. So my daughter did the vocals. I wrote the lyrics.
Oh.
And and Anna sung the lyrics, and
she's happy with it. She don't find it a little bit embarrassing.
a little bit. It's a little bit cringe for her.
Cringe, yes. That's also what I'm hearing from my son. It's a little bit cringe, Mama. On the video, how you dance, it's cringe.
Yeah, but so Anna's really obsessed with all things like Japanese and Korean, and what's crazy about Hatsune Miku is because I wasn't aware of this performer. It's an AI performer. And who performed at Coachella.
What?
And she does, and Hatsune Miku also does like concerts in like Amsterdam for like 50,000 people.
Crazy.
What's crazy is that my daughter doesn't care that this artist doesn't exist.
This is crazy, no?
Yeah.
And
but she loves her. She loves her. She's got a huge poster in her bedroom, and she's like bow down to Hatsune and all this, and she's
crazy,
like.
No?
It's her birthday today and blah, blah, blah. She's like,
She don't have a birthday. She's not existing. Crazy. But oh my God. And
but this is the new wave, and she loves all the songs and she knows all the songs. And the other crazy thing is with the kids is that she knows all the words to like Copacabana and all these crazy pop songs because they appear on YouTube shorts and the way that the kids are sort of digesting all this music is crazy. That I think when we were younger, we only had access to what was on the radio or what was in the record stores. Where now they have everything,
Yeah, I spent hours and was reading all the vinyl what I had and was looking to the pictures and crazy how this is. But for you as a musical hero, expert, whatever, can you see if something is music from AI, or can you really hear it? Especially also with this song from your daughter.
I think we've been seeing. I mean, I've been watching quite a lot of videos on this, and.
But also on electronic music, there's so many. I was recently playing on a festival in Germany, and I had this young driver, and he was like, "Hey, you want to hear my song?" And then he put it on. Said, "Yeah, I did it via like an app," and I was like, "What?" First of all, I couldn't hear it.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I think you can with there's some of the sounds of the way that they resonate. I think you can hear it, and there's obviously. There's a group on Facebook called World of Echoes, which is moderated by Francois Kevorkian. So and people are always posting stuff about AI on there. And so there's quite a few very crafty individuals who have got Bandcamp pages where they're creating like lo-fi house and they're doing this description saying, forgotten gem from 1989, and there's a photo. And it's all made up. And of course, there's going to be a lot more of this. And I think it's going to become, quite, I don't know whether it's, I don't know what's around the corner. This is why I'm saying that I'm probably going to make my last album. I don't know.
we don't know, no? Because it's really quite tricky. And of course, we have to face it. And of course, it's coming more and more producers. And we are having already so many records coming out every week. And it's crazy. Yeah, and it's really hard to go through it and to find your way, especially as a young DJ. I remember I've been to a record shop, and this was really, really important for me because there's one record dealer, he shaped my taste in a way. And I think in Berlin, we were lucky with Hardworks. Yeah. This is all where all the big stars were growing up because they went there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is something I've been shouting about a lot. Is this the whole thing or idea of curated playlists? So, I've been speaking a lot about DJ charts. I think it's a shame that there's less real charts, or playlists of even clubs or. It's harder to find out what people are actually playing, and also DJs don't want to give away their playlists for some reason. they're very protective. So I don't know.
Still?
Yeah.
I remember this was a thing back in the 2000.
Yeah.
I remember that I had it here with Roman Flügel. I talked with him when Anja was playing back in the days. He always put something on a sticker on it that you can't see what he's playing. I thought these times are over.
Yeah. But I think that, it's all about, obviously everything is about information. And this is the thing, I think even now we're seeing with the internet, it's actually, with there being so much noise, it's actually harder to really find the good stuff. It's really getting difficult. And that's why we need more people out there to actually do curating playlists, and really, I don't know. I think that there could even be a better news platform for electronic music. Something that's really pure, that's not political, that's just focused on music. Because I think that's also missing as well. I think electronic music has gone so far away from musical content. And I think that makes it even harder. We find it. We find that sometimes we put out records and like everyone, you put it out and then a week later it's disappeared.
Absolutely. It's not even hot anymore.
No.
It's 3 days now.
But the thing is, what we find is a lot of the records, they come out and then DJs are so slow that then maybe 6 months later people will start playing it, and this is the thing.
Yeah, I like this too. But there's still some really nice charts. For example, I follow always Ryan Elliott does it.
Yeah, Ryan's great.
Great, every month, and really interesting tracks there. Yeah. So it's quite important to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Ryan, he's a good friend, and the thing is, but he's such a fanboy, again, he's really, really passionate about the music and also about supporting independent labels, independent artists. And, there's not so many people out there that actually do that really have to. It should be kind of mandatory for professional DJs to submit charts to actually get free music. That's how it used to be,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but these times are over. So with 20 years of Rekids, any plans in the near future?
So next year, there'll be way more parties, way more House of Records parties globally, and that's the focus, is to focus on parties. Yeah.
And is it quite difficult to pick up, because you had after 20 years so many artists, so many people appearing on the label? It's quite difficult to choose and say, okay, this party I do with them and this, and find the balance of diversity. And
yeah, for sure. it is.
Everyone is complaining always, like artists.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's only so many people we can add to each party, and of course we're trying to then make it more regional. So we'll, it's a minefield. It's also quite difficult. Well, what we try and do is we will give a promoter a list of DJs, and depending on what the promoter thinks, usually they'll know, because they'll know how successful an artist is in that area,
Yeah, and then it's more easier for you. You always can say it was not my decision.
Exactly, but also I hope to get to a stage where the label parties can run without me being there. That's my plan, So, and I hope, and again, if we look back at maybe the mid 2000s and how big label parties were, whether it was Minus or whoever, or Mobley or whoever.
Desolate. What was it called back in the days? I forgot. It was the label, but the parties were calling different. Yeah,
but there was and of course Perlon, and there was. I think the idea of having these crews and these parties, I think they're really great, and especially